Hey everyone, this is Katie from Moonflower Moments. I'm joining you in here today with a bit of Page of Swords energy. So when I first started learning tarot, I was reading all of the books and I was listening to all the podcasts and I was like eating, breathing, sleeping, talking about tarot obsessively. And I think that in like 2022 and 2023, which were my first formative years, my first 2 years of reading tarot, I really was just consuming so much information that in 2024, I needed to take a step back and not do that. Like I created my YouTube channel last year because I needed to do something with that information that had been stewing. So now that my YouTube has been around for almost a year, I think I'm kind of back into a balancing point in 2025 where of course I still want to make the content, I still want to do all of the things here, but I also want to go back to some of my roots as someone that studies tarot. So with that being said, the other day I pulled from the Archetypes Oracle, the Healer, and this is really kind of what got me thinking about going back into that Page of Swords energy and what I do within this tarot space. So in the guidebook, it gives a write-up, and in that write-up there are 3 words, and I created a spread from those 3 words. The 3 words were remember, return to, and reclaim. And I used 2 different decks as I tend to, so I essentially had 6 cards. And within the return to and within the reclaim, I got Page of Swords twice, so like 1 time from each deck. And then I also had 9 of Pentacles there. And it really gave me a lot of time to ponder because I remember like I love that feeling of sitting in my room with that 9 of Pentacles and really just surrounding myself with all the books and all of the podcasts and all of the decks and just like sitting and absorbing that energy and kind of like loving being in the thick of that, of all of these resources that I can explore with my mind as a Page of Swords would. And I'm here and I'm ready to take up that calling again. I'm ready to reclaim that part of myself. I'm ready to return to that part of myself. So here we are today, and I'm going to share with you the decks and the books I plan to study for 2025. So this is a bit of an ambitious video, but I mean, if we're going to go all in and we're going to do Page of Swords, I think Page of Swords is better than King of Swords because King of Swords would get bogged down by the details. Page of Swords, we're kind of bopping around and we're going to have a good time with it. So the first one that I want to share, I'm in the middle of studying right now, and this is the Guidebook for Tarot of Vampyres. Absolutely such a lovely treasured book in my collection. I have studied everything except for a couple of the majors at this point and the courts. The courts I'm gonna probably study with like my own dedicated like court system. But as you can tell, I went through all of the majors, not majors, all of the minors 1 through 10, and just wrote all of these notes. So this is a very like beloved copy of a book to me because it contains so much of like not only Ian Daniels' information and like his framework for tarot, but I also have notes in the side to contextualizing it for myself. I've created a little journal in this book to help me study. And so for the minors, I just kind of bullet pointed them, some information for myself. But in the majors, I really am taking the time and reading the entire entry and then pulling some quotes from the entry, but then also putting a lot of stuff in my own words too. I'm also been decorating it with like these stickers, and it's just been a lot of fun. Today I did the devil. Here we go, where's the devil? Yeah, today I did the devil, and I was just blown away by its Thoth influence. Essentially, Ian claims in this that we oftentimes think of the devil in a too negative of a point of view. So we see the devil as something that is like restricting our body, but we have been taught to kind of think about succumbing to our bodily pleasures as a negative thing because of dogma and religion and things like that. He claims that we're all animals just like all other animals are, and so therefore we should embrace that fiery need to procreate, essentially is what he says. And it's a very Thoth point of view from what I can remember from like a very brief Thoth study I did a couple of years ago. But I appreciate that because like sometimes we get pigeonholed into thinking that a card means one thing, and when we hear others' points of view, we're able to kind of deepen our well of knowledge that we pull from. So I've been having a lot of fun with this one. I think I'll probably be done with the majors by the end of, I don't want to give myself like a due date, but probably like the middle of February. I like to read it like one at a time. I find that like I can't do more than that because I want to like put that card up on my altar and like look at it after I study it. Next one is going to be the Essential Lenormand from Rana George. I hope I'm saying her name right. I'll have to look it up after this video. So that being said, I have struggled with Lenormand basically since I bought a Lenormand deck. Like, I don't know, it's not an intuitive system for me, and I don't think it's meant to be an intuitive system, but I mean that like it's not one that I picked up quickly. So I have the Nocturnal Garden Lenormand. This is created by Phantasmagoria. And I love this artwork, I love the illustrations, I love the concept of this deck, but I do find it hard to read the font a little bit, and that's okay. I mean, like, I find that the images are pretty easy to recognize. Like, I can look at this and tell that it's a bouquet, I can look at this and tell that it's birds, but I think that's just kind of like a minor thing with it. I think the real issue that I have is that when I pull Lenormand readings for a quick, like, divinatory sense, I oftentimes have a hard time seeing the connection between the cards in my everyday life. And I know that's something that other people struggle with too. So what I've decided to start doing, and I'm going to do it in tandem with this book, is I'm playing a game called Paleo with my husband. So I'll like show a image on the screen right now. And it's just this fun little game that we're playing together. And so every time I start the game, I pull like a 3-card reading, a 2-card reading, and I ask myself, like, well, what should I do in the game? And the game has like a lot of mountains, it has a lot of flowers, it has like a lot of like farming, and really honestly, like, the aesthetic of this deck to that game is so spot on. So I'm kind of pulling a little bit of a Crystal Chronicles with that, and it is helping me learn because I'm kind of doing it in a fun sense, in a sense of what can I do on this game, and just kind of like playful. So I've been doing that for the last couple of weeks, and it has really been helping me build a relationship with this deck, a nice little fun way to use it. But I think that I want to start bringing in the layer of the book too. So my computer is really old. It's from like 2010, guys. Like, I film everything on my phone because my computer is just old. So it takes my computer forever to load up. So I'm like, while I pull my cards, I'll oftentimes be stuck like looking at the guidebook, but the guidebook entries are teeny. I'm like, I can probably read like a whole page or two on the combinations while I'm waiting. Like, that would not be that hard. So I think I'm going to dip into this one because it does have here, it has all of the cards written up like this, but it also has the contextual meanings. And I find this to be like a very structured approach, which is exactly what I need to make this system work for me in a practical extent. We also have combinations and examples. Yeah, I think it's just the tool that I need. And I've heard people rave about this, saying that this is the book that they use to learn Lenormand. So why not? I'm just going to dip my toes into it. It's not going to be anything too serious, but something fun, you know, something enjoyable that I can do while I'm waiting for my decrepit computer to load up. I mean, really, it does take like 10 minutes. So that's plenty enough time for me to read a chapter. So that was the other one. Okay, so the next one that I want to do a little bit of a Page of Swords-y kind of study with is going to be The Art of Living by Thich Nhat Hanh. Please let me know if I'm saying his name wrong. I know my husband has told me how to pronounce it like 17 times, so if I'm saying it wrong, let me know. I want to make sure that I offer respect to him. Spiritual monk. I believe that he passed away last year. I could be incorrect on that, but, sorry. My mother-in-law gave that to my husband, so... Anyway, so we really got into a good habit, me and my husband, where he was reading to me essentially, like, they have chapters, but then within the chapters they have like mini chapters that are essays. He was reading to me like an essay every night before we went to bed, and I found it to be a very enriching practice. But he kind of started that halfway through the book, and so I never got the opportunity to read the top of it. And so what I think I want to do is, I already pulled my daily cards for the day at the beginning of the month. I do an envelope style reading for my daily pulls. So I pull all of my cards at the beginning of the month, and then I stuff them in envelopes, and in the morning I pull them out of the envelopes and I kind of ponder over them. But sometimes after I'm finished pondering, I still have like a couple minutes left while I'm eating my breakfast, and I thought it would be a good idea for me to start my day with this book. And so I'll read these opening lines to you so that you can kind of see why I would kind of want to be in tune with this book before kind of going and embarking onto the everyday world. This is a deeply beautiful book. It's so hauntingly beautiful in the sense that it calls on us to remember our interconnectedness like every moment of the day. We are so close to the Earth that sometimes we forget how beautiful it is. Seen from space, our blue planet is remarkably alive, a living paradise suspended in a vast and hostile cosmos. On the first trip to the moon, astronauts were stunned to see Earth rise above the moon's desolate horizon. We know that on the moon there are no trees, rivers, or birds. No other planet has yet been found to have life as we know it. It is reported that astronauts orbiting high up in space stations spend most of their free time contemplating the breathtaking sight of the Earth far below. From a distance, it looks like one giant, living, breathing organism. Seeing its beauty and wonder, astronauts feel the great love for the whole Earth. They know billions of people are out there living their lives on this little planet with all of their joy, happiness, and suffering. They see violence, wars, famine, and environmental destruction. At the same time, they see clearly that this is a wonderful little blue planet, so fragile and precious, it is irreplaceable. So I think I need this. And I did end up reading some of it. My husband read like the second half of it, but this is a book that I think we can return back to again and again and again, especially because, like I said, these mini chapters are just a couple pages long. So I'm excited about it. I think this is the one for 2025 I'm most excited about. Now, in terms of like a good old fashioned deck study, I would like to study the Radiant Wild Tarot. I talk about this one a lot because it's one of my favorite decks, and I feel like, guys, if it's one of my favorite decks, I feel like I should read the guidebook. My bookcase is really far away from where I sit and actually practice my tarot, and there's no way for me to really rearrange my room to bring my books closer to me. So I'm thinking I need to purchase like a little shelf or make like a little shelf for me to have like books on hand that I can reach over and reference, because a lot of times I will see this image and I'll be like, oh, I wonder what the author has to say about it, but like, y'all, it's way across the room. Like, I probably have my blanket, I have my coffee, I probably have a cat on my lap. Like, I'm not getting up to pull the guidebook. And so I think that I need to really kind of restructure my room in order to access these reference materials more appropriately. But more importantly, I need to take the time to listen to what these authors have to say. So this is the deck that I want to study first and foremost, because if it's one of my favorites, I need to study it. And I'm going to do that. I think there was someone who I watched a really long time ago on YouTube, and I don't remember their name. I wish I did. And I don't remember their channel, or else I would link it below. But if y'all remember, please let me know. Who essentially wrote poems with the Gentle Tarot guidebook, because every entry has affirmations. And I realized earlier today when I was looking at this guidebook, this deck has affirmations for all of the cards. And so I thought to myself, guys, what if I use this for a daily practice? So I use this as like an envelope tarot. Kind of like I said, for my daily pulls, I use this as like one of the decks that goes into the envelopes. And then I write an affirmation. I write the affirmation onto a little piece of paper and I carry it in my wallet, or I like type it on as a note on my phone just to have access to it. So that way I am actually walking around with these affirmations around me, and it's just a quick, easy way for me to remember the wisdom of those daily pulls. So I like that concept, and I think that that will probably happen. I don't know, I'm pretty excited about it. I don't want to say it's going to happen in February, because February is really cold, but maybe I need like the heat of this weather at that time. I also like that this guidebook has the radiance tip. So for all of these cards, there's like a way for you to embrace this energy. So for the Page of Wands, it says go somewhere new, whether it's a restaurant you haven't eaten in before or a new country, keep exploring. It reminds me a lot of the book Tarot Toolkit, which I gave to my friend who was first learning how to read tarot, because that book has like activities for you to embrace the energy. So I don't know, I think like I've been sleeping on this one. Like what? Like we have legends? Oh, I guess these are the legend that she wrote. So this is like the write-up. I didn't even look at the rest. We have Direction, Legend, Light, which is the write-up, and then Shadow. I don't know. It's beautiful. So I think I will end up reading this like cover to cover, because I'm going to integrate it into like a daily practice, which, if you can tell, is kind of my theme for this. I want to make sure that I'm able to access everything in a way that is not strenuous on me, but still allows me to get what I need. The next one I'm going to study, and this is the last one I'm going to put on the list, is the Mystical Dream Tarot. So I absolutely love this deck. This is one, I brought this deck to therapy with me a couple weeks ago. I bring this deck to therapy all the time. And my therapist is also a tarot reader. And so we had a lot of fun kind of like reenacting some of my stories in life using this deck, and using the imagery in this deck to kind of like give like a visual storytelling of my experiences. So I don't know why I just shared that with you, but whatever. I think that's another way that you can use tarot as a therapeutic tool, is not necessarily pulling cards, but laying out the cards in front of you and using it as a storytelling mechanism. It just worked really well, and I think it was like a language that both of us understood, so we were able to kind of function in a way where we were coming at it from the same archetypal lens. But this deck is strange and it's weird. And after that experience in therapy, I was like, I've already loved this deck and I've always loved this deck, but I want to give it its time to shine. I remember when I first started using this deck, I was extremely new to tarot, like maybe 3 months into tarot. And I knew it had a lot to teach me, but I remember thinking to myself, the guidebook was fucking weird. And it is, because this creator created this deck based off of her dreams. So she says here that like, it's important for her to convey the messages that she had in her dreams to other people. She claims here, this is a tarot deck like nothing you have ever seen or experienced. So I have like followed some of her stuff on YouTube when I was first starting out, trying to figure out what the hell is this deck. And I think because I've used it so much, I've kind of like really gotten to a good spot with it, but it's meant to be a deck for dreams. And I have a friend of mine who is a Pisces, hello if you're watching, you know who you are, who is like really into like dream interpretation. And I thought to myself, maybe this would be good as like a kind of March deck, like kind of like a Pisces deck. So I don't want to get too far into like my monthly intentions here, but I think that it would be cool to not only read this guidebook, I don't want to just read it like cover to cover, like I want to do something different with it and take my relationship with it to the next level. So if you have this deck and you use it, please let me know what you use it for, because she's a weird one. I know she's very divisive in the community, but I love her. She has a firm spot. I want to know her deeper. And that's the point of those. Okay, so next, let's see. All right, so the next one I've definitely shown on my channel before. This is Healing Traditions of South Louisiana, Prayers, Plants, and Poultices. And this was created by Mary Broussard Perrin and Beverly Constantine Fuselier. Oh, I didn't know what was signed. This book was like really hard for me to get because it's so like independently produced that only like 2 stores sell it. So if you're interested in this, I think you probably will have to reach out to the creator. But essentially, this is a deck that talks about folk healing in South Louisiana, which is where I live. It's where I bought my house. It's where I'm from. It is home. And so I really want to read, I do want to read this one like start to finish. And it's more of a reference book than it is meant to be like a book that you read top to bottom. But I'm ready to go. I feel like I did kind of dip my toes into medicinal plants when I first started my gardening, and I know enough about enough, but I don't know, and I feel like I can always learn more about plants in Louisiana. So it talks about like, what does it take to build a culturally significant garden? Absolutely, please do. We're about to get our garden certified. So in Louisiana, there's a spot where I live where there's an organization. If you have like so many native plants, you can get like certified. And we're about to have a certified garden this year once we hit 50 native plants. So I don't know. I like it. It talks about the traitors, which I know Danny talks about on her channel quite a bit. So it's the history of healing traditions in plants and essentially living off the land in Acadiana, which is where I live. So I love it. Let me see here. I think I actually saw that. I don't know if this is like only like Creole wisdom for sore throat, but this is something I definitely did when I was like growing up. My mom would always make me gargle with salt and vinegar for sore throat, and that really helps. Here's another one my mom used to do. My mom is a smoker, or rather she hasn't smoked in a while, but she used to blow smoke in my ear for an earache. So I definitely have seen some of these before. And it's interesting to me to see what's culturally significant to this area. Because you look at all these family traditions and you're like, yeah, it's just something we do, but you don't understand if you do it because it's like a cultural thing in Louisiana, or if it's like something your parents did. My mom, like both of her parents are from Germany, so I never know like, is it like Louisiana wisdom or is it German wisdom? And like my mom has no idea what the origins are. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and stop talking about this one, but I'm really excited to own it. I'm really excited to have it. I am getting the Louisiana Cajun-Creole Tarot this year from my dear friend Jared. He goes by the Cajun Conjurer. He's creating that deck and it's funding on Kickstarter. And so I am thrilled to receive that deck and use it in combination with this book and just really touch back into my Louisiana roots, like I always do. Okay, so next one that I want to show you, this is kind of one of my hard mode ones, so I did want to include on this list like 2 decks that are very heady. So this is Paul Hewson. Why can't I pronounce names? I don't know, y'all. Don't judge me. I learned all my vocabulary from reading. And it is The Mystical Origins of the Tarot. So from ancient roots to modern usage. I did read the first opening chapter of this book. And I love the concept of this book. So it goes through the history of the earliest tarot cards. So I think the chapter that I read... Yeah, here we go. So it starts like all the way into the middle of the 15th century. It talks about how the wands were originally called polo sticks and why the wands look like they do in the Tarot de Marseille. But then we go through the origins of the court cards. Yeah, I think that's where I stopped. We're into using playing cards as divination, but I find it to be really cool because let me just like open to you a card. So we have the star. So it gives you kind of a write-up about the star, but then it also talks to you about the original interpretations of it. So this particular person has gathered information from all different types of resources and reference materials to essentially study how the meaning of the star has evolved over time and the meaning of all the cards has evolved. So according to this, the 1750, the star was interpreted as a gift. And then it goes all the way essentially to weight, which has been typically shown as like the standard meaning that's accepted nowadays. But I just find it really cool to look and see, okay, maybe when I pull the moon, it doesn't always mean period of increase, the flood tide, the waxing moon, decline, things like that. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it could mean, let's look here. We have Christian 1870 deceptions. It could mean hidden enemies. Like it could mean any of this. And I find that to be fascinating to look at how the symbols have changed. So I'm thrilled to work with this one, but this one's heady. I think I will read this one cover to cover, but this is going to take a lot of mental energy with me, so I'm giving myself no due date to get it done. And then the last one, this isn't necessarily heavy. I think that this is going to be a pretty quick and easy read, and I was able to purchase this on my Kindle. Actually, I don't even think I needed to purchase it. I think on Kindle Unlimited it's free. And I find that I'm much more of a digital book person than a hardback. So I think that this one, switching between my Kindle and then also my hardback copy, like I'll be able to kind of get through it a little bit faster than maybe per se The Mystical Origins of the Tarot. So this is Playing Cards and Marseille Tarot in Divination, Magic, and Lore. The YouTube was all about this little book a couple years ago, and so I did purchase it. I have some playing cards that are based in Louisiana trees and Louisiana native flowers. I also have some playing cards that are based in like butterflies, and I also have a pet set that's placed in moths. So my idea is to study this cartomancy, but also kind of pair it with some of the playing cards that I have that represent like native plants and animals, and kind of learn the system that way, because for me it's going to be very hard for me to understand. We have here we go. So we have some of these meanings like Eight of Spades, if a woman wasting time with a useless man, if a man rogues operating around him. Like this seems like based really in a particular cartomancy tradition. Six of Diamonds, money. Seven of Diamonds, a conversation. This is going to be hard for me to remember, but if I'm able to kind of match this meaning with like some sort of native plant or native butterfly that is present in the playing cards that I have, I think I can make sense of it. And so I find like memorizing this would not be good for me. Similar to Lenormand, like memorizing these straightforward, like clear-cut kind of answers would not be something that sticks in my brain. I think I really kind of like memorize and can play within the concept of ideas. I learn by connecting ideas to each other. And so I'm going to try to implement the playing cards that I have that already have a system that I already know, which is nature, onto this and see how it goes. But I want to dive in. And some of it does deal with Marseille Tarot, which I do really love reading Marseille decks in the Marseille system. So I think it's going to be a natural fit. Okay, so those were all the hard copy books that I have and all of the hard copy decks that I wanted to share. And as like a bonus, because like the Page of Swords kind of bounces everywhere and does all of the things, I had a moment when I was watching Tarot Magpie the other day and they were talking about the fact that they listen to a lot of tarot books on audiobook, and I was like, why haven't I thought of that? So I went to go look at my Spotify premium account and like what kind of books that I can access, and there are so many different tarot books available on Spotify that you can listen to free if you have premium. And I'm always lamenting the fact that I cannot find a good audiobook. And so I looked and they have Radical Tarot by Charlie Claire Burgess. That one's available. I might buy a hard copy, might not. The other book that is on my wish list but Spotify doesn't have is Tarot for Creativity. I'll put an image of that book on the screen. So I think that the general energy of this year is I'm going to do the damn things. I'm going to study. That's what I want to do. And I'm feeling very invigorated by this, and I just kind of excited that I'm in a place where after a long rest and after feeling kind of burdened by so many different like emotional and social changes, that now that that's kind of settled down and I have some security in those areas of my life, I'm able to go back to that mental space of play. So if you made it to the end, I really appreciate y'all. So thank y'all so much, and I will see y'all again next time.